Con, we live, man. So Shalom, Israel. Uh, welcome back to another edition of Law School. First and foremost, we want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, brother Nashan, I got brother Nehemiah with me today. So all praise to the Most High, man.
Shalom, family.
We're gonna be going over Genesis chapter 36 today, Most High willing. All right, so let me share the screen. And then we're gonna get into it. All right. All right, Con. So let me go to Genesis 36, and I'm gonna start at verse 1. King, if you got anything you want to bring out, just interrupt me, man, and we'll get into it.
Oh yeah, Khan.
All right. It says Genesis 36 and verse 1. This is the account of the descendants of Esau, also known as Edom. All right. So Esau and Edom are the same person. All right. Edom means red. That's what it literally means, red. Right. So let's keep going. It says Esau married two young women of Canaan, which are descendants of Hamites, who we call the Africans or Nilotic Africans, pure blood Africans. We understand that we got some of our people in Africa. All right, so I want to distinguish that not all Africans are Hamites. Not all people who live in Africa are Hamites, but the Nilotic, meaning pure blood people who descend from Ham or Kim. All right, those would be Hamites. And Canaan was the son of Ham, right? So Esau married two young women from Canaan. All right, so you have a school of thought that teaches that because Esau married so-called black women, that he's a black man, or that his kids wouldn't be Edomites. Nah, right? Let's get a precept real quick. Let's go to the book of Numbers. All right, Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18, right? You are who your father is. All right, it says, and they assembled all the congregation. This is going into Israel, right? Assembling as a congregation to number our nation, right? It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees. Your pedigree is your lineage. The pedigree after their families by the house of their fathers. So your father is who carries the seed, right? Which fertilizes the egg that is in the woman that she produces in her menstrual cycle. All right, once a month, when that egg gets fertilized by that sperm that comes from that man, that seed, that egg turns into the child, right? So it comes from the man, it comes from his seed. All right, so they assembled the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigree after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So we live in a matriarchal society today, meaning the mother is who is said to determine what the baby is, but that's not biblical. The biblical way to look at society is through a patriarchal lens, meaning paternity, or through the father, right? Let's get another witness. Let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 2, and let's read verse 59, right? It says, indeed, so same type of thing going on. Ezra is determining who's who in Israel, or if they're Israel at all, because there had been a lot of mixing going on up until this point, dealing with heathen women, right? With sisters dealing with heathen men coming up out of captivity. So that Ezra is in the process of getting everything straight, right? So verse 59, it says, and these were they which went up from Tel Malah, Tel Harsa, Cherub, Adon, and Emer, but they could not show their father's house, and their seed whether they were Israel. So being able to show your father's house is one way. Is one way we can determine if you are Israel, not by your mother. All right, not by your mother, because the mother does not have a seed. All right, she does not carry the ability to determine and carry out lineage, in other words. All right, so let's go back.
Hey, Shalom, can y'all make a point on that too?
Khan, go ahead.
And that just goes to show you when it says the house of their fathers, it literally shows you that literally not all Esau kids, you know what I'm saying, always come out just looking, red like majority of Edomites are today. Some Edomites mixed with Japanese women. And
Mm,
sometimes some children coming out looking what? Japanese. Uh uh I seen it was a movie recently. It was basically like a creature that trapped like people in the house, and it was an Edomite father, and this woman was Japanese, but the kids came out looking Japanese. But it just goes to show you that, you know what I'm saying, it's by the seed of your father. Just like if a so-called African American goes and impregnates a woman that is, let's just go to say Vietnamese, and they come out looking like them, the seed still remains of the house of their fathers, regardless of what that child looks like. That's why we tell people all the time it's not about skin color. You know what I'm saying? Like the Lord's people come as the sand of the sea. And when you look online, the sands of the sea is different shades of colors. You know, same way with the 12 tribes, same way with these with Esau and his descendants. You got, some people that may look like us, but they have a white father. And his father before him was white, so I rest on that.
Khan. Excellent point. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We don't go off skin color at all. Right. That's why, notice I said they could not show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. And that's just one way we can determine it. The other way, and the most important way, is through the spirit, right? We have to open up the Bible, which is the spirit, right? That's the spirit of the most high, the words of the most high, right? So opening up the Bible, right? Let's get a quick precept, right? It's real easy, real simple, right? Way to figure out if you of God, if you of the most high. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 8. All right, John 8 and verse 47. Right? Let's see what that say. It say, he that is of Yahweh heareth Yahweh's words. Simple. If you are the most high, you gonna agree with this Bible. Ye therefore hear them not, because ye are not of Yahweh. Right? So we can't just look at your skin like the brother brought out. We gotta open up the Bible and now say that's one thing that we could stand to do a little bit more thoroughly, because in this truth, we came in and we learned a way to do stuff, right? But as the days progress towards the end, the Most High already said, let me get that in Daniel, right? Daniel chapter 12. The Most High already said that knowledge was going to increase. It wasn't going to stay where it was at, right? At one point in time, he said that knowledge was going to increase. This Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, it says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, right? Shut up the word. Don't not just literally close the book, but Daniel, I'm finna make the words that I done gave you in this book to where people ain't gonna get the full understanding. It says, and seal the book. Daniel didn't take no glue and super glue the pages of the book together. This is a spiritual thing that's happening. It says, even until the time of the end, many shall run to and fro. A lot of people gonna be going back and forth with the same Bible. It says, not understanding. It says, but what? Knowledge shall be increased. So with that knowledge increasing, right, we can't just look at a person and say, oh, you dark skin, you probably Israel. Nah, we got to do the same process for everybody, right? The Most High is not a respecter of persons. So no matter what you look like, if you look like if you appear to be a Jew, right, or you appear to be a Edomite, we got to open up this Bible and let the Bible determine what your spirit actually is, right? For people that look like they us and for people that don't look like they us, right? So all praise to the Most High. That's an excellent point. All right, so yeah, we just read the Bible, and the Bible gonna let us know real quick if you are of the Most High, because if you are, you gonna agree with it front to back, right? And it's real easy to do that if you of his spirit. All right, so let's go back. Verse 2 again. It says Esau married two young women from Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. All right. It says he also married his cousin, Basemath, a Basmath, who was the daughter of Ishmael and the sister of Nebaioth. Right. So he married his cousin. That went too uncommon back then. Jacob married, his cousin. All right. It says Adah gave birth to a son named Eliphaz for Esau. Basemath gave birth to a son named Reuel. Ahoilibamah gave birth to sons named Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. All these were all these sons were born to Esau in the land of Canaan. All right. It says Esau took his wives, his children, and his entire household, along with his livestock and cattle, all the wealth he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and moved away from his brother Jacob. So while we read about Jacob, what he did, right, when Esau was mad and he was in his fury and wanted to murder his brother Jacob, we read about his story. Now we kind of looking into Esau, what was going on with him up until this point, right? It says moved away from his brother Jacob. There was not enough land to support them both because of all the livestock and possessions they had acquired. Salakia. This is Salaki. This is when Jacob came back home after his father Isaac had died. Right. So Esau is moving away because of the wealth that he has, and Jacob has that wealth too. So they can't both live in that space, right? It says so Esau, also known as Edom. I'm reading the NLT. Let's go to the KJV. Verse 8. That's where I'm at. It says, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. So when Esau moved from amongst his brother, he went to Mount Seir. Seir is where the Horites dwelt. All right, let's go into that word Seir. Seir means what? Hairy or shaggy. All right. Patriarch of the Horites, the inhabitants of Edom, before the descendants of Esau, the Edomites, right? So they went up there, they bred with them, right? And that's how they also, so Esau was already hairy, right? All over. And you go and breed with another people that's also hairy in these caves, you're going to have a lot of hairy descendants. All right. So let's go back. All right. So that's what Seir is. All right, so that was the first home of Esau. Later in history, they ended up moving into the Georgia Russia mountains of Caucasus. All right, that's where they get the name Caucasian from. All right, they know that's where they come from. All right, so let's keep going. Verse 9, it says, these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons. Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau. Reuel, the son of Bashmath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, and Gotham, and Kenaz. Right? Kenaz, where the word Ashkenazi come from. Right? Amalek, if you understand. All right, they come from them. So you got, as far as the so-called Jewish man is concerned, you have two types, right? You have the Sephardic. Let me pull up another tab real quick. The Sephardic Jews come from Spain, right? It says Sephardic Jews are people whose families come from the historic Jewish groups of Spain and Portugal, right? That's like the smaller group of them. That's where your Adam Sandlers come from. They look a little bit more Spaniard, right? And then you have Ashkenazi, which come from Germany and Russia. Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi Jews are a Jewish ethnic group that trace their ancestry to France, Germany, and Eastern Europe, including Poland, Russia, and Ukraine. So they look a little bit different, but they the same people. Just like Jacob got tribes, Esau got tribes, right? So Kenaz, Ashkenazi, right? It
Hey,
says
King,
in, go
got
ahead,
my
go ahead.
points. And that
Uh,
and that's so true, man. Like, it's so important to look into these things because, how you brought the precept out, knowledge is going to increase. Can you look up uh what they say? Can you look up I want you to search up, is the Middle East a geopolitical term, or a modern geopolitical term? Because these people are the same people that, migrated to where our homeland is, and adapted the responsibilities that we're supposed to be doing, which is keeping the commandments of God in the land, right? Yeah, can you read that for me, King?
Khan says yes. So, yes, it is a modern geopolitical term. The Middle East is a modern geopolitical and colonial term, meaning that came from colonization.
Mm,
Colonial means some colonization happened, some displacement of people happened, right? Well, a lot of time we see these, like the brother bringing out, we see these words and we don't, you just say colonial.
right.
Colonial. That sounds innocent. Ain't nothing innocent about that.
Mm-mm.
Colonial means some people got conquered, colonized. It says American naval strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan coined the phrase in 1902. What black folk were doing then in slavery
Right.
to describe the region around the Persian Gulf from a British centric military viewpoint. It later spread widely through British and U.S. military commands in the 1930s and 40s.
And you see right there, that's a mod. See, and that's how people don't actually study, like Paul said, to study to show yourself approved. There's nothing wrong with studying things outside of the Bible. The Bible says, "Don't be rude." What is that, Sirach?
Don't
Don't
be
be.
ignorant in
Yeah,
anything.
that's all praise. That's spirit. The Bible says, "Don't be ignorant in a small thing or a big thing." That, like, literally, when people be like, "Oh, the Middle East, so you're Middle Eastern, you're Middle Eastern," I'd be like, "No," because that word was literally a modern day. Let me rephrase that's a modern day word, a modern day concept that they came out with. That when you look, I did a class on this. All praise to the Most High. Nobody in the time of Yahushua walking this earth, or anybody before him, ever called that specific area of Northeast Africa. Nobody ever called that place the Middle East. Nobody ever did. That is a modern concept of all those highlighted nations. That is a modern day concept to say that, hey, that's the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? But I yield on that, King.
It's absolutely new, right? And it's really all Africa. The reason I zoomed in, you can see all of this is what we call Africa, right? Is you see Egypt here. This little piece of water right here was created. That's called the Suez Canal, right? And that was made in the late 1800s. But you see, even though you have this water, the Red Sea, right? All of this is connected. All of that's connected. It's the same land mass,
Mm-hmm.
same tectonic plate, right? Which is made of Africa, right? The continent of Africa. So a lot of you look at a lot of old maps, right, from the 1500s and stuff like that. Um, even stuff as simple as the way America is portrayed in newer maps. You look at let me just see real quick. Right. A lot of a lot of maps will show that America looks like it's a bigger country than what it is. All right. You see. Uh, like this one right here. They taking me to Etsy. I don't want to buy it, y'all. All right. So this is a good example of what I mean right here. They try to make Africa look so small on this map. This is a political map, right? They try to make America. You see how it's no mistake that, dang, let me try to click on it, see if it'll blow it up. There's no coincidence or mistake that they got America looking the size that it looks like. All right, the United States. Let me see if this pull up. Yeah, I'm a human, man. All right, there we go. So see how small it's got Africa looking compared to the United States? That's on purpose. Africa is the one of the biggest continents on the planet, and it's way bigger than the United States actually is, right? But all of that, just like the brother bringing out, it's a way to politicize the viewpoint of the world to make you think that America has dominance over the world. Also into making it, if you think America has dominance over the world, then what you gonna think everything America says and teaches must be true because it's the biggest country, right? Visually speaking, but it's not really accurate. A lot of the older maps depict this area of the world as smaller than this part of the world, right? And you can look it up on your own time, but right, well, for the sake of time, let's go back to the scriptures, right? So no such thing as the Middle East, right? Let's keep going. Verse 12, it says, and Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek, right? So Amalek, when you read in the scriptures about him, the Most High hates Amalek, right? Let's go to the book of Exodus. I want to say is 16, right? Exodus chapter 16 and verse Exodus 17 and verse 16, right? The Most High swore war with Amalek forever, right? Exodus 17 and verse 16. It says, for he said, matter of fact, I'm going to read 15. It says, and Moses built an altar and called the name of it Yahweh Nisi, right? Yahweh Nisi, right? Which means war with Amalek forever, I want to say, right? Just got it right here. Oh, the banner, the banner, or because the hand of Amalek is against the throne of the Lord, right? In other words, so he put up an altar there and called it the hand of Amalek is against the Lord. Everything that the so-called Jewish man does is in an effort to work against the Most High. He's an enemy of him. It says, for he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. There's no saving these people, right? They are against the Most High. Let's go to Psalms 83. All right, they against the Most High. Them and Esau. There's nothing you can do or we can do to change that, right? It says, verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent. All these different nations, different their languages they speak, none of that's a barrier between them because they are confederate against the Most High, right? They came together between the language barriers, cultural barriers to all be against God. It says the tabernacles of Edom, the houses of Edom. I mean, everywhere Esau is, that's every house that they got, every country that they are the head of, and the Ishmaelites. of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Africans, Gabal and Ammon, the Japanese, and Amalek. Amalek come from Esau, but it's a reason why he didn't just say Edom. He also said Amalek because Amalek is one of the most powerful tribes that came from Edom. They literally funded the transatlantic slave trade. They insured the slave ships that came over here. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, more Africans. Ashur also has joined with them. They have Hopen, the children of Lot, Selah, right? So it's in the scriptures, man. It's plain. Amalek, Esau. This is why we're going over this right now so we can get the understanding, right? It says, these were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Ruel, Nahath, and Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These were the sons of Bashemath, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Aholabamath, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife, and she bare to Esau Jeush and Jalam and Korah. These were dukes. These were the dukes of the sons of Esau. All right, so what is a duke? Let's go into that. What is a duke? Right, a duke is a high-ranking European. Come on now, y'all. A duke is a high-ranking European title of nobility. That's why they kept that name, because that's them people. It says in systems like the British Mirage, it is the highest rank below a monarch or prince. The word comes from the Latin dux, meaning leader. Historically, dukes ruled over large territories called duchies or served as major military commanders, right? Because his blessing is the sword, right? So that's them, the dukes of the sons of Esau. Esau had a lot of wealth. You understand? They had a lot of wealth. It says the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, Duke Teman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, and Duke Amalek. These are the dukes that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Reuel, Esau's son, Duke Nahath, Duke Zerah, Duke Shema, Duke Mizah. These are the dukes that came of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bethshema, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholabamah, Esau's wife, Duke Jeush, Duke Jalam, Duke Korah. These are the dukes that came of Aholabamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their dukes. These are the sons of Seir, the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anah, and Dishon, and Ezer, and Dishan. These are the dukes of the Horites, the children of Seir in the land of Edom. And the children of Lotan were Hori and Hamam, and Latan's sister was Timnah. And the children of Shobal were these, Alvin and Manahath, and Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. And these are the children of Zibeon, both Asia and Anah. This was that Anah that found the mules in the wilderness as he fed the asses of Zibeon, his father. And the children of Anah were these, Dishon and Aholabamah, the daughter of Anah. And these are the children of Dishon, Hemdan, and Ishban, and Ithran, and Cheran. The children of Ezer are these, Bilhan, and Zaphan, and Akan. The children of Dishon are these, Uz, and Aran. So Uz is where Job lived, right? Don't get confused. Job lived in the land of Uz or Uz, right? But he was not an Edomite. He had some friends that were Edomites, right? But Job himself was not an Edomite, right? Job prophesied about the fact that Esau's descendants would become impoverished, like it said in Malachi. You said something, King?
Yeah, man, that just brings me to the 2 points, like how you said a lot of people when they think about Job, they think that Job was an Edomite. You know what I'm saying? The scripture says what it says. It says that the Lord hates Esau and his descendants. And that would make the Bible contradict itself. Can I get a precept in Ezekiel?
All
Where
right.
the Lord said Job, Noah, and Daniel would be able to deliver themselves because they were righteous, man. Let me get that. Ezekiel. Let me see where it's
18. I know what you're talking about.
Ezekiel.
14.
That's it. Yeah, 14. And you can start at you can just read 14, Ezekiel 14:14, because that would make the Bible contradict itself if one Edomite out of all the Edomites just doesn't get exterminated. You know, Job, a faithful Edomite, the Lord's gonna have mercy on. No, the Lord said that by a mighty prophet Obadiah that literally all Edomites are gonna be extinguished, man. But you can go ahead, King.
Ezekiel 14:14. Though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver but their own souls by their righteousness, saith Yahweh.
Right. So we know that these men, Lord willing, you know, are gonna when they get raised up, from in the resurrection, we know that these men are gonna receive the kingdom, Lord willing. Noah, Daniel, and Job, man, these were righteous men, you know, and their example shows us, that we can do the same thing. But just back to the topic, how the brother said the land of Uz, which is Edom, Job just lived just like how we are Americans. But uh that's just our what they call that.
And so it'll be a demonym, actually. We
Mm,
are, that's the name of a people associated with a place.
hmm
That's not where we're actually from.
Right. So the same thing with Job, he was just living there. Like Paul, he was a Roman, but he was an Israelite by nationality, but he was just a Roman citizen because he lived in Rome. But the same thing with Job. Job was one of our forefathers that was just living, in us. But I digress.
That's right. That's right. Excellent point. All right, let's go back. It says, verse 29, these are the dukes that came of the Horites: Duke Latan, Duke Shobal, Duke Zibion, Duke Anah, Duke Dishan, Duke Ezer, Duke Dishan. These are the dukes that came of Hori among their dukes in the land of Seir. And these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. So when it said, this is part of the reason why Samuel, he was upset, because we didn't have a king over us. The Lord was supposed to be our king, right? Let's go to First Samuel. Let's go to First Samuel chapter. We've always envied the ways of our oppressor, man, since way back then. First Samuel chapter 11, and let's go to verse 18. First Samuel 11 and verse 18. Start First Samuel 10. First Samuel 10. And verse 18. Right? It says, and said unto the children of Israel, thus saith Yahweh, God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of all the kingdoms and of them that oppressed you. Right? So we was delivered over out of the kingdoms. Then a kingdom is a place and a people that have a king. It says, and ye have this day rejected your power, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations, and you have said unto him, nay, but set a king over us. This is why it was so disrespectful, and why Samuel found it so disrespectful, because we seen what having a king did to us. right? It says, now therefore present yourselves before Yahweh by your tribes and by your thousands, right? So this is when uh Saul ended up getting made king over us, right? And this displeased um Samuel very, very much because he understood that the Most High was supposed to be our king. Trying to find where it says that that God was supposed to be our king. If I can't find it, I ain't worried about it. But yeah, the nations that ruled over us and that had dominion over us, they all had kings, including Esau, right? Said verse 12. Yeah, we'll go back to Genesis. Right. So it says they had a king before any of us ever had a king. Right? Let's keep going. Verse 32, it says, and Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zerah of Basra, reigned in his stead. So Basra, we read in prophecy, is symbolic where the Lord is going to come and destroy the children of Edom, right? So that's where that comes from, Basra, right? It was a capital city in the land of Edom. All right, let's keep going. It says, and Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. And Husham died, and Hadab, the son of Bedad, who smote Midian, in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead. And the name of his city was Avith. And Hadab died, and Shamla of Masrekah reigned in his stead. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his stead. So that's not the Saul of our people. So sometimes you see names doubled up and tripled up in the scriptures. It'd be more than one person who had that name, right? Not necessarily always the same person. It's a whole nother Saul. It's an Edomite, right? The Saul that reigned over us was a Benjamite. It says, and Saul died, and Baal Hanan, the son of Akbor, reigned in his stead. And Baal Hanan, the son of Akbor, died, and Hador reigned in his stead. And the name of his city was Paul. And the name of his city was Paul, and his wife's name was Mehetabal, and the daughter of Matri, the daughter of Mazahab. And these are the names of the dukes that came of Esau according to their families, after their places, by their names: Duke Timnah, Duke Alva, Duke Jeheth, Duke Aholabama, Duke Ella, Duke Pinon, Duke Kenaz, Duke Teman, Duke Mizar, Duke Magdiel, Duke Aram. These be the dukes of Edom, according to their habitations in the land of their possession. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites, right? So all these people we just read about, like we started out talking about in the class, you are who your father is, right? So all these descendants would be considered Edomites because that's who their father is. He had several wives, several concubines, but those children all are the offspring of Esau, right? So you had anything you wanted to bring out, King?
Yeah, want to get probably two precepts. Can I get a first one? Ecclesiastes 4:16. You know what I'm saying? Because people love to narrow it down to be like, hey, you know, all them people from back then, the ancient times, they died off and all that. Like that just doesn't make no sense because everybody comes from, Noah, you know what I'm saying, and one of his sons. And through the lineage of his sons, became the nations of what the world is today. Just how the way Esau back then, was living and breathing and he had children, they had offspring and they kept growing. The same way how the 12 tribes is, man, just like everybody else, that descends from somebody of ancient times, right? But you can go ahead, King.
Verse Ecclesiastes 4:16. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit.
You see right there, it says that literally there's no end of the people, man. And it says that it says even of all that had been before them. So for anybody that loves to say that none of those people are on the earth today, that's a lie. All them people is still walking this earth today. You know, they just go by. Oh, you remember I sent that screenshot that Esau came up with the word race? Yeah, I don't know if you remember
Con,
that.
con,
They came up with that, man. That's why people think the way that they do because Esau renamed everybody. You know, we're gonna call you African, African American. You know, we're gonna call you Hawaiians. We're gonna call you we're gonna call them Chinese. You know, we're gonna call Esau. Man came up with all this nonsense. But go ahead, King.
con. I got the up here it says race is a modern and social political invention
Mm,
rather than a fixed biological truth. The concept emerged during the 15th and 8th to 18th century through European exploration. They try to make this sound innocent. European, they was just exploring. Nah, they was killing people. It says European exploration, colonialism, colonization is what that is, and the transatlantic slave trade as a way to justify social hierarchies and the unequal treatment of different human populations. Right. So it's a racial construct, right? A political invention to basically invoke white supremacy, like the brother said. So there is no end of all the people, right? Let me go to the book of Isaiah, like the brother brought out. Them people still here, and the people who was then are still here after them. Right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 63. All right. We read about Basra, right? Edomite capital, right? Well, this is a prophetic scripture we finna read, right? Isaiah 63 and verse 1. It says, who is this that cometh from Edom, right? With dyed garments from Basra. When the king was here the first time, he was here as a lamb. He ain't go to Edom and his garments appeared to be dyed, right? This is prophetic. It says, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the wine press alone, and of the people there was none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger. This is prophetic. This was coming to Esau, Edom, right? It says he's gonna tread them in his anger. So for them to do that when he and this be prophetic, they're gonna have to still be here when he get back. Just like the brother brought out. It says, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments. That's why his garments look dyed. He said when he's Isaiah seen it, he been stomping grapes. Because he gonna stomp out the Edomites. Right? It says, in the slain, and I will stain all my raiment, for the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. That's why I look like this, because I've been thinking about the vengeance that I'm gonna get from my people. And then now the year to redeem my people is here. See, we can't get redemption without somebody getting destroyed. They
mm-hmm.
go hand in hand, right? It says, and I looked and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore, mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. He's gonna be so damn mad when he come back that he ain't gonna need no help,
Mm,
right? He says, and I will tread down the people that he read about in Ecclesiastes 4 and 16. There's no end of the people. It says, and I will tread down the people in mine anger and make them drunk in my fury. So they got to be somebody. All nations can't be saved because these people got to be somebody. And they
right.
gonna get tread down in his fury. It says, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Right? So we can't save everybody because this got to be somebody.
Right.
And Esau is a vagabond, man, and a fugitive. He
Right.
walk around in all these different disguises, trying to be everybody, trying to be the, like we say, man, he the damn South African, the damn samurai. He's everybody. He trying to hide, but the Most High know who he is, because you can't hide who your spirit is, right? So all praises to the Most High. for that, man. You got some, King?
Last precept. Can I get Wisdom of Solomon 12:12? Because
All
it's
right.
it's such a shame that people think that these nations can be saved, man. It's really a shame, man, because that's not thus saith the Lord, because we know obviously, what I'm saying, well, they love to pull that all nations gonna worship the most high, all nations gonna flow in Jerusalem. We get that, we know that. But salvation primarily is for the Israelites to be saved from captivity. That's prophetically in Psalms chapter 85 as well, 7 through 9, how David was literally praying that the salvation and that Israel be saved, man, the saints. You know what I'm saying? That will, be saved from these dang heathens, man. We know David spoke prophetically too. Majority of his writings is not how the way modern day religions try to teach, man. That book is prophetic, man. David was on speaking through the spirit. But go ahead, King.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12 and verse 12. For who shall say, what hast thou done? Or who shall withstand thy judgment? Or who shall accuse thee for the nations that perish, whom thou made? Or who shall come to stand against thee to be revenged for the unrighteous men?
So you see right there, how in the world can you ever go against the Most High and say that these nations can be saved when He said He gonna make a full end of them? It's gonna go back to the way it was supposed to be from the beginning of time. Ain't nothing gonna be but Jake walking this earth in righteousness.
Right.
But I yield.
That's right. That's right, man. I mean, that's plain as day right there. And a lot of people don't like that. But like we brought out in John 8, he who is of God, hear God's word. Even all Israel ain't Israel. We done brought that out so many times, man. But even our people, a lot of our people got Stockholm syndrome. They love their oppressor. They want him to be here. What you think he gonna do if he stay here, man? He gonna colonize eventually. So
Right.
he gotta go, right? So all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elect, right? Double honors to the elders. Shout out to Elder Ozias, mighty brother
Right.
through the spirit, man. Um, and shout out to everybody, man, that's enduring, man. Keep enduring, whatever you might be going through. You ain't suffering through it alone, it take every ounce of strength brothers got to get up here and do these classes, man, and give it to y'all, man. So most high willing, you got something out of it. You was edified. And most high willing, man, we'll come back with another class soon, man. Brother Nashan,